number 2 is not a declarative sentence because it is an example of interrogative sentence. Okay? Very good, Mr. Morris. How about number 3? How about the others? How about number 3? Okay, sige, Miss Isabel.
No, sir.
Okay, so very good. Number 3 is no. Okay, so why? Bakit hindi siya yung declarative statement?
Sir, ano siya, nag-give ng command, ganun, imperative sentence.
Okay, so very good. It is an imperative sentence. So number 3 is not a declarative statement. How about number 4? How about the others? Yes, Lori?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So it is a declarative statement. And next, number 5. How about number 5? How about the others? How about number 5? Sino naman dito? Mr. Aldrin. Anong sagot mo sa number 5? How about Miss Sandy? Sandy?
Sir, no.
No? Why do you think so? Bakit no?
Sir,
Bakit
because
hindi
the sentence is not declarative statement.
what type of sentence is number 5? Pag hindi siya declarative, it is what sentence?
Exclamatory sentence.
So it is an exclamatory sentence. Okay, so we have here number 2, 3, and 5 are not declarative statement, and then 1 and 4 are example of declarative statements. So if you're going to observe 1 and 4 are stating something, information, and this information could be factual or not factual. So that is for declarative statement. So let's have here. So proposition is not just a declarative statement, but it is a declarative statement that could be identified as either true or false, but not both. So if you are given a declarative statement, you should be able to identify it if it is true or false, but not both. So that is for proposition. And then the truth or falsity of a certain proposition is called truth value. That is the truth or falsity of a certain proposition. And we use capital letter T for true and capital letter F for false. But in some references or in some books, we use 1 for true and then 0 for false. And sometimes it is easier to manipulate proposition if they are symbolized. So sometimes you can symbolize propositions using capital letters or uppercase letters, or lowercase letters or small letters. Like for example here, capital P, Q, R, and small letters S, T, U, V. And these letters are called propositional variables. So the letters that we use to symbolize proposition are called propositional variables. So that is for proposition. Okay, so do you have any clarification or question before we proceed?
None, sir.
Okay, so Pabola, let's proceed with. Okay, let's have here more examples of proposition. So we have here number 1, and we symbolize it using capital letter P, which is our proposition P is 1 is an even number, and the truth value of that is false. It's because 1 is not an even number. So that is the truth value of our first example. And we have here our second example, our proposition Q. And our proposition Q states that 4 is a perfect square number, which is the truth value of that is true. Okay. And another example here, number 3, Manila is the capital of the Philippines. So the truth value of that is true. So that is true. And then number 5, 1 plus 1 is equals to 2, and that is the truth value of our number 5 example is true. And then we have here another example. 3x minus 4 is equals to 2 when x is equals to 1. Is that true or false? It is false. So we're going to substitute 1 to x. And this equation on our left side, that is 3 times 1, which is equals to 3. 3 minus 4 is not equal to 2, but it is equals to negative 1. So our 5 or number 6 is, the truth value of that is false. So that is for truth values of propositions. And we have here not proposition or non-examples of proposition. We have here, oh, it's Friday. So it's obviously that is not a declarative statement. It is an exclamatory statement. And number 2 here, how many sides are does a triangle have? So that is not a declarative statement, but an interrogative statement or sentence. And another non-example here is 3x minus 4 is equals to 2. So you cannot identify. So for a given proposition or statement or declarative statement, you should be able to identify if it is true or false. And if you cannot identify if it is true or false, then it's not a proposition. So if we're going, so this is a statement that is declarative, but we cannot identify if it is true or false because we don't know the value of x in our website. We cannot say that it is true, not unless may value x, or we cannot say that it is false if the x, not unless yung x is my given value. So you cannot identify the truth value of this declarative statement. Okay. So we also have here another declarative statement, but we cannot identify if it is true or false. It's because it uses pronoun. So declarative statement that uses pronoun are not considered as proposition. It's because we don't know what is being or who is being pertained by the pronoun he. Kung may pangalan yan, then we can say that it is a proposition. Para masabi natin na true or false. Like for example, so how do we make number 4 as a proposition? We can just change he to a name. So we have Morris loves to sing. Is that true or false? True ba, Mr. Morris, or false?
True.
Okay, so the truth value of that is true. Morris loves to sing, and the truth value is true. Okay, so those are non-examples of propositions. And we have here the following examples. Okay, so may katanungan ba?
None, sir.
Okay, so now I want you to give your own examples of propositions. So can you give me one example of proposition? Sinong gusto magbigay ng example? Let's have Kenneth. Okay, Kenneth, can you give me one example of proposition? Or can you think one example of proposition? Oh, Mr. Kenneth. Ano
Grass
yung
is green kano, sir.
Yes,
Grass is green kano.
the grass is green. Okay, that's correct. That's an example. Okay, how about Lori? Okay, Lori, can you give me one example?
The book is belong to Ira.
Okay, so that book or the book belongs to Ira. Okay, Correct? Okay, how about Ira? Yes, Miss Ira, can you give me one example?
Sir, 2 plus 2 is 4.
Okay, correct. And then let's have last example from Marinel. Nandito na ba si Marinel? Or wala pa? Okay, let's have Janil. Okay, Janil. Okay, Janil, can you give me one example? Nasaan yung mga to?
Sir, nawawala yung net nila.
How about Marinel?
Sir, same lang.
Magkasama ba ito sa mga sa bahay nila?
Sir, no.
Sir, magkapit-bahay sila.
Yes, sir, kaya mahina. Ay, joke.
So maraming absent ngayon. Sino pang absent? Tapos kukunti pa yung sumali sa ibang sections or non-online class students. Okay, so let's proceed. Okay, so by the way, we can categorize propositions in two types. The first type is simple proposition and the second one is compound proposition. So we can just differentiate this wherein simple proposition is a single declarative statement, or it is a statement or proposition that has a single thought or one idea. It's just one proposition. So it is the same with simple sentence. Kung meron tayong simple sentence, then we also have simple propositions. And kung meron tayong compound sentence, meron din tayong compound propositions. And for compound propositions, it contains two functional parts. And we call those functional parts as subproposition. And we don't call them always as subpropositions. So there are other terms. And how do we call those two parts or two propositions that are involved in compound proposition? So compound proposition is composed of two or more simple propositions. So from the word compound, it means there are two or more simple propositions. And usually, pag compound propositions na pinag-uusapan or compound sentences, meron silang conjunction na tinatawag. But in our case, we are going to call those as logical connectives or operators. So ang tawag natin sa mga conjunctions na ginagamit sa compound propositions are logical connectives or operators. Okay, let's have here examples of simple proposition. So, pakibasa Miss Ira, number 1.
Corazon Aquino is the first female president of the Philippines.
Okay, so that is one example. Okay, number 2. What's the word number 2? Andyan sa Miss Dulinan, number 2, pakibasa.
Some houses are made of bricks.
Okay. How about number 3? Elizabeth.
All women are capable of giving birth.
And number 4? Pakibasa Mr. Morris.
No witches are good.
So those are examples of simple propositions. So if you're going to observe, they are just expressing a single thought or single idea. Contains only one proposition. And we also have here the examples of compound propositions. Ipakibasa ang unang example natin, Miss Ariel.
If a square has 4 sides, then it is a quadrilateral.
Okay, so that is an example of compound propositions. So the logical connective or operator that is used here is F then. So if you're going to observe, it contains two simple propositions. So we can separate this into two simple propositions. So the first proposition that we could have here is a square has four sides, and the other one is a square is a quadrilateral. So if you're going to observe, we always we have here a pronoun it. So it's okay to use it in a proposition as long as we know what is being pertained by the pronoun. So yung it dito, it pertains to square. So we know what is being pertained by the pronoun it here. So it's okay to use pronoun as long as we know what is being taught by the pronoun. Okay, so that is one example of compound proposition. So let's have here another example. Pakibasa nga, Mr. Kenneth ulit.
Then last example ng compound. Maria is a laborer. Eat and coffee. Two words in a coffee.
Sir, you know one?
Number 2.
Either Mark will eat pasta or he will eat a burger steak.
Okay, so that is another example. And our logical connectives here is, our logical connective or operator is either or. Okay, so we have here two simple, or we can have here two simple propositions. We have Mark will eat pasta, and the other one is Mark will eat a burger steak. So again, we have here a pronoun, but we know who is being pertained by the word pronoun, by the word he or the pronoun he. We have Mark. So the first sub-proposition is Mark will eat pasta, and the second sub-proposition is he will eat a burger steak. So those are the two functional parts of this compound proposition. Okay, let's have number 3 example. Pakibasa, Mr. Felix.
Maria is a laborer if and only if she works in a factory.
Okay, so that is our third example. Again, the two functional parts here are Maria is a laborer, and the other one is she works in a factory. And our logical connective here is F and only. Okay, so these are some examples of compound propositions. Okay, may katanungan ba or clarification?
None, sir.
So let's proceed with. Okay, so we have here an activity again. Exercise muna tayo. Okay, so let's check kung naintindihan nyo ang pagkakaiba ng simple sa compound proposition. Pag simple, just say will. Or pag compound, just say will. So who wants to answer number 1? So we have here the first proposition. Is it simple or compound? Pakisagot nga yung number 1. Sino gustong sumagot sa number 1? How about the others?
Second one, we have conjunction. Third one, disjunction.
Awan?
Fourth one, implication. And then the last one,
What do you have to say?
or some other.
How about sending?
Says this is equivalence or some other
I think Miss Cindy has, yes. Pakisagot yung number 1.
Okay, so,
Ring ko po ba?
yung mga logical connectors that we're going to use. Now, we put it in mga words.
Is it will or woe?
Sir,
Woe? Okay, so you claim that it is a compound proposition. Agree ba kayo? Is it a compound proposition?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Who agree? Who disagree?
Awan.
Are you sure that it is a compound?
Yes, sir.
Medyo.
Sino ti-agree?
Okay, second one, conjunction.
So all of you, your answer is compound proposition. Tama ba?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And also,
How about Felix? What's your answer?
get. Tapos, ito po yung symbol, yung parang naka-invert na din. That is,
Mr. Felix, anong sagot mo sa number 1?
kaya yung mas ganda na,
Is it compound or simple?
and po yan, or
Compound, sir.
Compound.
get. So that is
Are you sure?
So, we are
Sigurado kayo nga na compound data?
Simple sa sir.
Compound.
Compound.
Answer mo. It is, okay, let's check. It is simple.
Oh, kita niyo ang peso.
Wow din yung
So it is a simple proposition. It's because, can you separate these two as two simple proposition? Yung perfected the quiz, completed ba yun?
No, sir.
Wala siyang subject. So yung buong studied and perfected the quiz, it pertains to shadowing. So this is a simple proposition. It's because you cannot separate the other one, perfected the quiz, could not stand alone. So it's not a declarative statement. So it is a simple proposition. Okay? So be careful with that. Pag wala siyang subject, does not stand or cannot stand alone. So let's have here, baka nalito lang kayo dun sa ating conjunctive ba ang tawag ito? Yung end natin. So number 2, who wants to answer number 2? Okay, sige, Elizabeth. Yes, Elizabeth? Will or will?
Wow, sir.
Wow. Okay, so very good. So that is a compound proposition. So the first sub-proposition is the dog is black, and the second one is he is smiling. So our connective here is and. Okay. Okay, number 3, Miss Lori.
wow.
Okay, so it is obviously a simple proposition. So that is you. How about number 4? Yes, let's Isabel. Isabel.
Will.
You? Do you agree, Mr. Morris?
Medyo.
Medyo. What's your answer, Morris?
Wow.
Hmm? Okay, so you're good. It is a simple proposition. So again, it is similar with number 1. Consider it here is not or cannot express a single thought. Even though we have here a connector or conjunction and. So number 4 is a simple proposition. Okay, number 5, last one. Who wants to answer number 5?
Yung mata data. Oh, sama.
How about the others? Asan ang mga iba? How about Sophia? What's your answer? Yes, Miss Sophia? Or Miss Joanna? What's your answer for number 5?
Wow, sir. Samot.
Yes. Samot.
Gumwon, sir. Wow.
Wo. So your answer is wo. Do you agree, Miss Elizabeth? Is it a compound proposition? So it is a compound proposition. So the first sub-proposition here is 5 plus 5 is 10, and then the second one is 10 minus 5 is 5. And of course, our connector here will be F again. So that is all about simple and compound propositions. Okay, I think you don't have any questions, so let's proceed with the one of the rule. When we talk about proposition, we have here the rule of negation. So from the word negation, it's obviously that is the opposite, or that is the denial of a given proposition. So as we have said earlier, you can use or you can symbolize any propositions using capital letters or small letters. So for negation, meron din siyang symbol. So we have here yung first one or this one. So in our case, we're going to use this as our symbol. So again, negation is the denial of a given proposition, or we're going to negate a given proposition. And the operator for that is, we have here the word not, or the presence of the word not, and then the presence of the word or the phrase, it is not the case. But sometimes you cannot found the word not, or it's not the case, as long as you're going to negate the meaning of the statement or the proposition. We're going to negate the, yes, we're going to get the opposite meaning of the given proposition. So let's have here an example. If we have here a proposition P, which is 1 is an even number, if we're going to negate this one, then we're going to have here the symbol. So if we have here not P, or it's not the case that it is P. So we're just going to read this as not P, and the negation of not or of P is that is, it is not an even, 1 is not an even number. So for it also, we have here the word not. So ibig sabihin, we deny the given proposition P. Or the other way of getting the negation of this proposition is, we can have here the opposite word of even number, the opposite of even numbers are odd numbers. So we can say that 1 is an odd number. And therefore, the symbol follows. So we're going to use this symbol for not P, or as a denial of the proposition P. So that is one example. Another example here is, we have here a proposition Q. Maria will go to church. And if you're going to deny that, we can say here, Maria will not go to church. We have here the presence of the operator not, and of course the symbol follows. We have here not Q. Or we can have here not Q again, and that will be, instead of using not, we can use here it is not the case. So it is not the case that Maria will go to church. So from that negation, we deny the given proposition, or we get the opposite meaning of the given proposition. Okay. Next example here is, we have here a proposition R. R, the sky is clear. And if you're going to negate that, we're going to get the opposite word of clear. We can say that the sky is unclear. So if you're going to observe, we did not use the word not, or it's not the case, but we use the opposite word for clear, which is unclear. So it's that is unacceptable. It is accepted as a way of negating a certain proposition. So that will be, the symbol of that will be not R. Another example here is, if you have proposition S, and that is John is a soldier. If you're going to negate the proposition S, that will be not S. Therefore, we're going to have here, it is not the case that John is. So that is how we negate, or the rule of negating a given proposition. Okay. So may katanungan ba sa rule of negation or question? Nakuha ba?
Yung proposition na to not R, the sky is not clear. Now, kapag kunin mo yung negation, kunin mo yung kabaliktaran. Since this is not R,
May katanungan, Mr. Morris?
R na yan. So, anong kabaliktaran ng the sky?
Awan, sir.
Sumsumbat. Komuno na tungtungod or awan. Okay, now, after the rule of negation, let's have here the types of compound propositions. So, hindi lang isang type, isang compound proposition. So, we have here 4 types of compound proposition. So, first, we're going to have here the conjunction. So, ano nga ba ang conjunction as a type of compound proposition? So, when we say conjunction, the connectives or operator of this is, we have here the words and also, but, moreover, and yet. So pag yan yung mga connectives sa compound propositions, tinatawag natin sa compound proposition ngayon ay conjunction. Okay, and the symbol for conjunction, yes, we have here, inverted capital letter D. So para siyang inverted capital letter D. Okay. So we can, if we can symbolize propositions, then we can also symbolize connectives or operators. And ang tawag natin sa parts ng conjunction ay, aside from, we can call them as subpropositions, we can call them as conjuncts. Okay, let's have here an example para mas maintindihan natin. So let's say we have here two propositions, wherein the first proposition is, we have here proposition P, let's name, or let's have the symbol P, and that is 3 is a prime number, and then the other one is proposition Q, and that is 2 is an even number. If we're going to create a conjunction of these two simple proposition to make a compound proposition or a conjunction, we have here 3 is a prime number and 2 is an even number. If we're going to observe the connective that we have used is the word and. Therefore, this is a conjunction. And if you're going to symbolize that, it follows what is the symbol for this proposition. 3 is a prime number, that is P. So P, N, the symbol for N, and Q. That is Q, that is this one. 2 is an even number. So that is for conjunction. Another example here is, we have here two propositions R and S. And R, that is the dog is cute. And then when is the dog is happy. Okay. So if we're going to create a conjunction for that, we can use here a connective the and. It depends if what we're going to use, as long as yung meaning is sound. So we have here the dog is happy and he is cute. So hindi natin po pwedeng ulitin na the dog is happy and the dog is cute. If we pertain with another, if we have here another subject, kung same subject lang din naman, we can use here a pronoun. If you're pertaining here with same subject, you can use a pronoun as a replacement for that other pronoun, with that subject that is used. So as long as we know what is being pertained by the word he here, or by the pronoun he, that is the dog. So the symbol for that is, the dog is happy, that is S, we have here. And then the symbol for he is cute is R, so S and R. So we read this as S and R. So we this P and Q. Okay. Okay, so that is for conjunction. Nakuha ba ang conjunction?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so ang tawag natin ulit dito sa first na part ng conjunction na to ay conjunct or subproposition. And the other one here is another conjunct or another subproposition. Second one. We have here a certain conjunction or conjunction that is a compound proposition. Okay, so that is for conjunction. So another type of compound proposition here is we have here disjunction. So sa disjunction naman dito, as usual, ang ginagamit na connective or operator is yung or, either or unless. So we have here the symbol for disjunction. It is somewhat like capital letter V. So always remember, pag conjunction, inverted letter V. Pag disjunction naman is, it is like a capital letter V. Okay. So let's have here example of disjunction. So we have here given two propositions, P and Q, wherein proposition P is R is E, 3 is a prime number, and proposition Q is 2 is an even number. Okay, so the disjunction of that we can have here, as long as we use a connective that is under disjunction. So we are going to use here or. So therefore, 3 is a prime number or 2 is an even number. So if you're going to observe, we use here or. If you're going to solve, if you are going to symbolize that one, that will be P or Q. So it follows. Kung anong noun ng proposition, yun din yung mauna sa ating symbol form. Okay. So that is an example of disjunction. Another example here is the dog is cute, another wherein that is symbolized as capital letter R, and capital letter S, the dog is happy. And if you're going to create a disjunction for that, we can use here either. So either or. Pag merong either, dapat it pairs with or. So either the dog is cute or he is happy. So if you're going to symbolize that one, we're going to have here either are or yes. Either are or yes. So that is for disjunction.
Then another proposition two.
Okay, nakuha ba?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Nakala matutulog kayo. Okay, so let's have the third type of proposition or compound proposition. Yung isa naman is, we have here what we call the implication or sometimes called as conditional propositions. And the symbol for that is we have here one-sided arrow. It's one-sided arrow. So the connectives and operator used for this is usually F then and implies. Okay, so pag ginamit natin yung F then, always yung first statement or first proposition is called the F part. Then we call that as the hypothesis. Yung then part naman, we are going to call that as conclusion. Okay, so para mas maintindihan natin, let's have here an example. Okay. With your proposition P, Ira get a high score in the quiz. And proposition Q states that Ira will treat Lori a lunch. Okay. So if we're going to make an implication for that or a conditional, we can use the connective F then. Therefore, we're going to have here an application. If Ira will get a high score in the quiz, comma, then she will treat Lori a lunch. If we're going to symbolize this implication, we're going to have if P, then Q. If P, then Q. That will be the symbol. Right. So another example here is we have here proposition R, which wherein it states that 10 is an even number, and another proposition is 10 is a multiple of 2. So we're going to use here the connective implies. 10 is an even number implies that it is a multiple of 2. So that is R implies S. If you're going to write it in symbols. Right. So that is we have here two examples for implication or conditional. So if you're going to observe, if you're working with same subject, we have here 10 and 10, we can use your pronoun. Same with the first example we have here. Since we have here same subject, Ira and Ira, we're going to substitute the other Ira with the pronoun she because we are pertaining here with same subject. So that is for implication naman. So let's remember, for implication, ang symbol natin is one-sided arrow. Okay, so let's have the last one type of compound proposition. We have here what we call the biconditional or sometimes called as double implication. If we're going to observe, we have here the word or we have here the word by. From the word by, it is two. So if you have here biconditional, therefore it concerns with two conditional statements. So when you see biconditional, it is a conjunction of two conditional propositions. It is two conditional proposition that is combined as one. So we have here the operator for biconditional is if and only if. So let's have here the first example. Ipakibasa nga Miss Lori yung first proposition natin.
If Kenneth will watch YouTube videos, then the internet connection is strong.
Okay. The other one, Miss Duliman.
Mabalik siya, pero
If the internet connection is strong, then Kenneth will watch YouTube videos, sir.
Okay, thank you. So if we're going to observe these two propositions, just state the other way around. Yung P, nagpalit yung sa Q, nagpalit yung dalawang proposition. So pag ganyan yung dalawang propositions, we can write them as one. Or pag ganyan yung dalawang conditional proposition, kung saan nagpalit lang yung F statement, yung F statement sa first proposition natin naging then statement sa second proposition. Tapos yung then statement naman sa o yung conclusion sa ating first proposition naging hypothesis sa ating second proposition. So napalit yung hypothesis and conclusion. Then we can state these two propositions as one, which is called by conditional. Okay, and that is, you can have here, Kenneth will watch YouTube videos if and only if the internet connection is strong. So we use the connective if and only if, and if we're going to symbolize that, we're just going to have here P, F, and only F, Q. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng magkapalit yung Q and F dito. Q, F, and only F, P. Okay. So we're going to use here two-sided arrows. Okay. And then we have here another example. Okay, basa yung first example, first proposition natin, Miss Elizabeth.
If even numbers are multiples of 2, then 10 is an even number.
So we have here multiples. The next proposition, Felix.
Then it's an even number. Then even numbers are multiple of 2.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to observe, nagkapalit lang yung hypothesis ng hypothesis and conclusion ng proposition R sa ating proposition S. So pag nagpalit lang yung hypothesis and conclusion, then we can write them into a biconditional proposition, which is, we have here, even numbers are multiples of 2 if and only if 10 is an even number. Or we can have the other way around. 10 is an even number if and only if even numbers are multiples of 2. And the symbol for that is R, if and only if S. So that is for the last type of compound proposition. Okay. Nakatanungan ba?
Answer.
None, sir.
Okay, so pag wala, let's have here some, before tayo mag-proceed sa, so we have here examples of propositions that have more, 2 or more connectives or operators. So always, pag meron tayong 2 or more operators dito or 3 or more operators or connectives, pwede natin pangalanan yung ating mga compound proposition depende sa pinaka-main na connective na ginamit. So always meron tayong main connective and then meron naman tayong connective na ginamit sa part ng main connective natin. So we have here, if you have here a proposition P, Q, and R, and it states that we have here a compound proposition both P or Q and R, we can symbolize this from the word both. Ibig sabihin, dalawa yung tinutukoy niyan. So pag both P or R, therefore, magkasama yung P or R. And P or Q, and R. So if we're going to symbolize this one, since magkasama yung P or R, P or Q pala, then we're going to group them as one using parentheses. So we have here open and close parentheses, P or Q and R. Ibig sabihin, ang main connective natin dito is yung conjunction. And yung disjunction na P or Q, it is just part of the or subproposition of our conjunction. So ang proposition na to ay tinatawag natin conjunction kasi yun ang pinaka-main connective na ginamit. Okay. Another example here is P or both Q and R. Again, pag both kasi yan, it always pertains to two things. So magkasama ang Q and R. So for me to symbolize that one, we're going to have here the symbol P or open and close parentheses, Q and R. Therefore, the main connective used here is or. Ang pangalan ng ating proposition ay? Anong pangalan ng ating proposition? Anong pangalan ng proposition pag ang connective ay or? Isabel?
Okay, so nakita niyo yung symbol ko
Yes, Ariel?
Sir, disjunction.
Very good. So ang main connective ay, or ang connective ay, or then it is a disjunction. So yung number 2 natin dito is a disjunction. Okay, so that is for number 2 example. Another here is, we have here an example again, which states that, when it states that either P and Q or R. So kailangan natin i-analyze yung certain proposition para malaman natin kung anong type ng proposition yung tinutukoy ng given. So we have here either P and Q or R. Ibig sabihin, pag either, ang either statement natin dito ay yung P and Q. And yung or statement is yung R. So therefore, we're going to symbolize this one. We're going to have here, open and close parenthesis, P and Q. That is our either part of the proposition, and then the or part is we have here, or R. So again, therefore, we're going to call this as a disjunction. Kasi yun yung pinaka-main connective na ginamit. So either or, that is for disjunction. Okay. So we have here another example. P and either Q or R. Okay, so let's understand this as wherein the first part is P and the second part is either Q or R. So if we're going to symbolize that one, that will be P and close and open parenthesis Q or R. So ang tawag natin dito is conjunction kasi ang main connective is and. Okay, so it is obviously na magkasama ay dito yung Q and either Q or R. So we're going to group them as one. Another example here, if Q and P, then R. Okay, so if F statement here or the hypothesis is Q and P, and our conclusion will be R. So mag-group ulit ang Q and P. So we're going to have it here. Q, open and close parenthesis, Q and P implies, or if Q and P, then R. So we're going to have here an implication. Because the main connective is, you have the one F and then, or F then. So this one will be an implication or conditional statement. Okay, another or last example here. Okay, so neither P nor R. You see neither, that is not P or not R. So that could be stated as neither P nor R. And therefore, if I'm going to symbolize this one, that will be not P or not R. And that is an example of conjunction. So these are just small completed examples of compound propositions wherein you can find here 3 or more than connectives that is used. But it's always that there will be always a main connective that will be used, and that main connective will give us the name of that proposition. And the other connectives will just be sub-proposition of the main connective or just part of the main connective. So that is for compound propositions. So may katanungan ba sa part na to?
None, sir.
Thank you for the response. Okay, let's have here examples from a sentence to a symbol. A proposition that is in sentence form, and then what will be its symbol form. Okay. So given, so we're going to learn here how we're going to write a sentence form of a proposition and then to its symbol form. So we have here the following given proposition. Ginebra wins its first game, that is for G, and then T, that is Tok and Tex, wins its first game, and then capital letter A is Alaska wins its first game. So if we have here a proposition in sentence form, number 1, Okay. Pakibasa nga, Miss Ariel.
Ginebra wins its first game or Alaska loses it.
Okay, so how are we going to write this in symbols? So it follows, our first proposition here is Ginebra wins its first game. And what is what is our symbol for Ginebra wins its first game? That is capital letter G, so that will be G. And then our connecting or, so that will be the symbol for that is the capital letter V. So that is a disjunction. Okay, and then it says here Alaska loses it. So it's not necessary that you are going to copy all words that is written here as long as it has the same meaning. So kung yung Ginebra ay napanalo nila yung first game, ay natalo naman ang Alaska. So ibig sabihin, from the word win, the opposite of win is loss. So therefore, we have the negation or we negate the given proposition, Alaska wins its first game. So the symbol for that will not be A, but is not A. So that is how we're going to symbolize for our number one example here. So we have here G or not A. So we can read this as G or not A. So again, ang tawag natin sa parts ng disjunction ay yung first disjunct and second disjunct. We can just call them as first subproposition and second subproposition. Okay, we have also here another example. Pakibasa nga, Elizabeth.
If Alaska wins its first game, then either Ginebra wins its first game or Talk and Text wins its first game.
Yes, thank you. So if you're going to observe, we have here the connective F and F then. Therefore, it will be A. Anong tawag natin sa conjunct as a proposition? Pag ang connective ay F then. Anong tawag natin? Anong tawag natin sa
Implication or conditional.
Thank you. So that is implication or conditional. So for implication and conditional, ang tawag natin sa parts niya ay hypothesis and conclusion. Yung nauna yun yung hypothesis, and then the second one will be the conclusion. Okay. So ang hypothesis natin dito is Alaska wins its first game. So that will be our, and the symbol for that is capital letter A. And then the symbol for F then is, we have here one-sided arrow. And then the conclusion is Ginebra wins its first game or Talk and Text wins its first game. So we're going to group that one para magkaroon tayo ng main connective dito. Kasi hindi pwedeng dalawa ang connective. Okay, so we have here A, A then G or T. Okay. So the symbol for or the symbol for disjunction is we have capital letter T. So dapat memorize nyo na yung mga symbols sa ating mga conjunctions or sa ating mga types of propositions. Okay, let's have here another example. Sino gustong magbasa sa number 3? Okay, Miss Cindy. Nandito ba si Miss Cindy?
If Ginebra wins its first game, then not both Alaska win its first game and Talk and Text wins its first game.
Okay. Thank you. So we have here another implication because of the connective F then. So we are going to have here two parts. The first part is called as the hypothesis, and then the second part is called as the conclusion. So what will be our hypothesis and what will be our conclusion? So our hypothesis is always the first or the if part. So ang if part natin is Ginebra wins its first game, and the symbol for that is capital letter G, so we got to. And then the symbol for implication, we have here one-sided arrow. And it says here the conclusion, not both. Ibig sabihin yung both na to, it pertains to two. If your Alaska and Tok and Tex did not win their first game or they lose. So therefore, we're going to have here the symbol for that is not, and then open and close parentheses, A and T. So we have here our conclusion is a disjunction, is a conjunction because of the connective end. So that is for or how we're going to symbolize number 3. So the main connective here is implication. So the name of this whole proposition is implication. Okay. So that is for number 3. How about number 4? Pakibasa nga, Mr. Felix.
But Ginebra wins the first game and Alaska wins in the first game if the only Tok and Tex win its first game.
Okay, thank you. So I've shared the last example. So if we are going to pertain again with both, it pertains to two things. So it pertains to two propositions here. So we have Ginebra win its first game and Alaska wins its first game. Therefore, magkasama yan because of the word both. And we have here the main connective, which is if and only if. And we have here the next part, where the another subproposition is Tok and Tex wins its first game. So for me to symbolize that, magkasama yung G. So that is the symbol for Ginebra wins its first game. And the symbol for end is we have here inverted B. And what is this? Alaska wins its first game, the symbol for that is it. So that will be enclosed by a parenthesis. And the symbol for F and only F is we have here two-sided arrow. And then our second subproposition is T. So the first subproposition is we have here both Ginebra wins its first game and Alaska wins its first game. And the second subproposition is Tok and Tex wins its first game. So the name for this proposition is biconditional because it is the main connective that is used. So that is for, or that is how we write sentence or propositions in sentence form to their symbol form. Okay. May katanungan ba dito sa sentence to symbols?
None, sir.
Okay, so pag wala, let's proceed naman dun sa the other way around, from symbols to sentence. Okay, so that should be symbols to sentence. Symbols to sentence. Okay, so we have here the given three propositions. The cook is working, the food supply is adequate, and then proposition R states that the visitors are hungry. Okay. So if we have given here a symbol form of a proposition, wherein we have here P and not R. So how are we going to write that one? We're just going to substitute. Parang tayo nagsasubstitute. So ano ang symbolize ng P? It is the cook is working. And we have here not R. So ibig sabihin, we're going to negate R. How do we negate the visitors are hungry? We can say here the visitors are not hungry, or it's not the case that the visitors are hungry. So we are going to have here, and since the symbol for here we use is, we have the inverted B. So, and the visitors are not hungry. So that is the sentence form of this symbol. So let's have here another example. Number 2, we have enclose or open and close parenthesis, Q and R implies not P. Or we have here if Q and R then not P. So we are going to have here our hypothesis will be this yung buong ito, and our conclusion is not P. So just going to substitute. So F, always remember that yung hypothesis natin is yung if part, or if statement, and then yung then part is our conclusion. So if we have here Q, that is the food is adequate, and we have here the symbol for N, the visitors are hungry, that is for R. Then not E. So we're just going to negate the here. So the cook is not working. Then the cook is not working. So that is for number 2. So the symbol for number 2 are the sentence form of number 2 is if the food is supplied or if the food supply is adequate and the visitors are hungry, then the cook is not working. Okay, so that is for number 2. Let's number 2 pala. Okay, let's have here number 3. So the main connective na nakikita niyo dito is or. Therefore, this is a disjunction. Okay. So we have here not or, open and close parentheses, P and Q. So para natin isusulat yan, and it's sentence form. So we can say here, so to substitute yes, the proposition symbolized by R. So it says here not R, therefore we're going to negate R. If R says here the visitors are hungry, and we're going to negate that one, that would be the visitors are not hungry. So we have here either the visitors are not hungry or since magkasama yung P and Q, we're going to use here the word both. Both the cook is working and the food supply is adequate. So that is for example number 2. Okay, so that is from symbol naman to sentence form. Okay. May katanungan ba?
No,
How
sir.
about so? Malaka ba?
Siguro, sir.
Medyo.
Di ba tawan ng numbers? Laklakan dito. Okay. So in summary, we have here the following. So just remember, okay, we have here the types of compound propositions plus the role of negation. So when we say negation, this is the denial of a certain proposition. We're going to get the opposite meaning of the given thought. And then we can use here the connectives not, and it is not the case. Or we can just take the opposite or the antonym of the given descriptive word. And the symbols for that, you can have here this one, and the other one is this one. So in some reference books, they use this one as a symbol for negation. And we have here the conjunction, and the connectives used for conjunction is we have here the following, and also but moreover and yet. And ang tawag natin sa parts ng conjunction, aside from tinatawag natin na subproposition, we can call them as conjuncts. Conjunct 1, conjunct 2. So first conjunct, second conjunct. And the symbol for that is we have here inverted D, capital letter D. And we also have here the disjunction. Ang tawag naman natin, aside from subproposition, sa parts niya ay disjunct. So first disjunct, second disjunct. And the connectives used there is, or the operator is, we have here either or simply or, and then unless. And the symbol for that is we have here capital letter T. The next type of compound proposition is we have here the implication. So sa implication, meron siyang part. We have here what we call the hypothesis and conclusion. So it's not necessarily ang tawag natin ay subproposition, but we can call them as the conclusion, that is the F part, or the first statement that is used, and then the next one is the conclusion, or the then part. Pag ang ginamit na connective ay F, then pag implies naman kung ano yung nauna, yun yung hypothesis, and then the second one is the conclusion. Okay? And the symbol for that is we have here, one-sided arrow. Okay? And then the last one type of compound proposition is what we call the biconditional. So from the word by here, it means two conditional statements na pinag-isa. And ang tawag that, ang symbol na ginagamit siya, or ang connective na ginagamit ay F and only F. So we can just call yung parts ng biconditional as subpropositions. Okay? And the symbol for that is we have here two-sided arrow. In our next discussion, we're just going to use the symbols. So, dapat alam niyo kung ano ang symbol ng negation, symbol ng conjunction, and symbol ng disjunction. And so, with implication and bicondition. So, pag-memorize yung symbols ng conjunction, disjunction, or the others. Okay, and that is for propositions or compound propositions.
Edgar?
Okay, so for now, let's have an activity. Let's check kung naintindihan yung discuss natin. So we have here the following proposition in symbol form, and I want you to state the sentence form ng mga propositions na to in symbol form. So here the following compound propositions. Okay. Kaya ba? 1 to 8? Kaya bang sagutan?
Try, sir.
Okay, so I'll be giving you, kaya ba ng 3 minutes? Okay, so try to answer in 3 minutes, tapos I just call someone to answer or state their answer per and each or in one item.
Walang sir.
Okay, answer. Okay, answer.
Answer only data, sir. Awan.
This is just a practice exercise for everybody. Tignan natin na kung alam nyo kung paano sagutan yung activity na binigay ko. So, and to be given later on for the online students.
Okay, so this is the last part, yung by conditional po. So after this by conditional, we're going to discuss in the pinakalas ngayon, yung pag-translate po natin ng proposition into symbol, and then by sum. Okay, so by conditional, actually, it's the same with, what do you call this one? By conditional po natin, it's the same with the implication po. Yung kaibahan natin is that yung symbol is yung symbol natin here, for this one, vowel, and ito nakabobel siya. So pag ito po yung nakita natin, may dalawang point na arrow. Okay, so babasahin natin yan, E, and E, Q. So E, and Q. So ito na po yung word na i-insert natin using the symbol na by conditional. E and E. Okay, so yan po. Okay, so let's try the example. Okay, so yung example natin, for example, yung proposition natin is proposition P. At bakbakan niyo natin yan. Nakikita niyo ba yung example? Nasaan pa rin?
Okay, can we proceed? Kung na tayo mag-proceed? Okay, so let's proceed. Let's try to answer the following. And let's start with, sino gustong sugatan yung number 1? Okay, let's have your recitation. Okay, yung number 1, sino gustong sumagot sa number 1? Yung pinakamadali.
Try ko, sir.
Okay, sige. Morris.
It is not the case that Isa got a good grades.
Okay, so very good. So that is for number 1. So it is not the case, or we can have here, aside from using the word it's not the case, or the phrase it's not the case, you can use here the word not. So Isa did not get good grades. Okay, so if you're going to observe, we just aside from using got here, we can write this as did not get. So parehas lang yung meaning kasi past tense din lang naman yung sabi ng dalawang ito. So you can play with the words as long as that gives same meaning or same thought. Kasi pag got ang gagamitin natin dito, ibig sabihin may grammatical error. Okay, so that is for number 1. Very good. How about number 2? Okay, number 2. So, gustong sagutan yung number 2? Awan?
Yung first proposition natin, I watch YouTube, whatever videos. And then
Number 2.
Second, the internet. Sabi ko ito, internet. Okay, connection strong.
Okay, let's have Ira.
Then, by conditional,
Miss Ira?
Isa made her assignments and she studied.
So,
Okay, so very good. That is correct. So we have here Isa or Isa made her assignments and she studied. How about number 3? Let's have Aldrin. Are you here, Mr. Aldrin? How about Mr. Acosta? Okay, let's proceed with Miss Sandy. The number 3, Miss Sandy. Oh, asa na si Miss Pangapong?
And then internet connection is strong, it's better thing. Pwede rin po, palitan lang po natin. So it's still the same. Depende lang din po yung pag-represent.
Miss Sandy, number 3.
Okay, interchange yung distributor, kasi importante, yung ito distributor, okay, so we have 3 standard examples in plan.
How about Miss Elizabeth, number 3?
Okay, so proposition P.
Sige.
Isa studied and Isa got good grades.
Number 3.
We're going to get
Okay, ulit na. Number 3.
Isa studied and Isa got good grades.
Okay, let's check kung tama yung sagot natin. So we have here PS, Isa or Isa studied. Okay, so what is the connective we are going to use if this is the symbol? Is it and or or? Anong symbol yung capital letter V?
Disjunction, sir.
Disjunction. Therefore, it is or. Okay. And then we have here. So therefore, number 3 is yes. Elizabeth, can you check your answer? So for number 3, we have here Isa studied, or since we have here a disjunction, she did not get good grades because we have here not are. Therefore, we're going to negate the are here. So instead of saying Isa got good grades, then we can have here the negation of are. So that will be she did not get good grades. Okay, so that is for number 3 naman. Okay. Okay, let's have number 4. Miss Junicio.
If Isa got good grades, then she also made her assignments.
Okay, so very good. So that is simply, we have here the connective is the connective used here is the one-sided arrow, and that is an implication. So tama yung sagot natin, that is if Isa got good grades, then she made her assignment. So that is for number 4. How about number 5? Let's have Felix. Okay, number 5, Mr. Felix.
Wait, sir.
Sige, I'll wait. Ano na, Mr. Felix?
Lisa studied and she got Lisa studied if he made
Ano? Lisa studied or Isa studied.
Yung key natin is 4 is given.
Anong symbol kaninong symbol to? It is biconditional. So ano ang ating connective pag biconditional?
And then followed by 2. So repeat, yung key natin, 4 is given. Then yung key natin, 6 is out. And then we're going to get the biconditional. P muna, bago si Q. What would be?
Can you help me, Isabel? Pakitulungan si Mr. Felix.
Sir, Isa studied only if she made her assignment.
Okay, so it's not only if, but it is and if and only if. Do we need to agree? So thank you. We have here number 5 is we have here Isa studied if and only if she got good grades. So that is for number 5. So let's have number 7 naman, or number 6 pala. Okay, number 6, let's have Joanna.
Sir, number 6, number 7.
Yes, number 6.
Okay, so yes, what time question is?
If Isa studied and made her assignment, then she got good grades.
Okay, very good. So that is correct. So if Isa studied and she made her assignments, then she got good grades. So our conclusion, our hypothesis will be this conjunction P and Q, and our conclusion will be that is for number 6. How about number 7? Let's have Kenneth, number 7.
Sir, ang komo.
Paki-try lang, just try. Just try to state your answer. Malay mo, correct.
Yung sinasabi ko kanina, we're going to vertical span.
Sir, on talaga.
Okay, let's have a help from Lori. Okay, Lori, how about number 7?
Isa did not good grades. Wait lang. Isa did not good grades. Wait lang. Last na. Wait lang.
Okay, you just proceed.
Isa did not good grades. Wait lang. Wait lang, sir.
Yeah, wait. And number 8, kindly prepare Mr. Morris. Number 8.
Yes, there's a tendency. It depends po on the vertical span po sa mga given din po natin. Actually, it depends din po sa ano yung pinakasagot sa inyo. So, pwede rin po siyang diversify.
Can we have number 8 first? Okay, Mr. Morris, what's your answer in number 8? Let's get back to Mr. Morris.
Anita kitak, sir.
Given, yung parang hinahanap natin. So, pwede po siyang kunwari, ang proposition natin is in number. Let's say this in number, we have a recent example. Ang T natin, what is given? So, ang talaga yung powerful.
Sir.
Yes.
Isa did not good. Isa did not have good grades if only if she did not study and made her.
Okay, so medyo malapit. So ayusin lang natin. Kung ayusin natin yan, we have here the answer. So very good, Miss Lori. You have. So Isa did not get good grades if only if neither she studied nor she made her assignments. So the denial of this P or Q, you can use the word neither because it means pag neither she studied nor she made her assignments. So tama lang yung sagot natin pero inayos lang natin ng mas maayos. So that is for number 7. Okay. Okay, let's get back to Morris.
Wala pa rin po yung presentation? O meron na? Meron na po ba yung presentation natin? Wala pa.
Okay, let's have Morris. Or
Okay, is.
let's get help from someone.
So ito naman yung ano natin. Okay,
Who
so...
wants to answer number 8? Anyone?
Okay, yung groupings niya. Pwede ba ang kakainan? Kasi
Who wants to answer number 8?
this is actually used in the policy sa atin. Group,
Oh, Mr. Morris.
nasa connectors o connectors ko ginagamit ko sa mga sir. Pag dito ko siya, tapos nag-rate ko lang ng ganyan.
Ano project ko na sagot? Anong sagot natin sa number 8?
Or, ganyan. Pwede rin po natin gamitin sa using groupings ko. So, here, number 1 natin. Okay, so it's used whenever the word mabo.
Sino gustong sumagot sa number 8?
And then the following, yan po yung mga
Try ko man.
apostrophe or Q. Okay, so
Here,
meron
I
po
got good grades and if
tapos
ay,
meron siyang or on,
teka lang. Ano?
or dito, ayan, or,
Pwede na, just continue.
and, ayan, yung symbol, tapos on.
Okay, so let's have here the answer. So for number 8, we have either, tama na yung simula natin, either I submit her assignments and she studied or she got good grades. So the either part, we have here the both Q and P, and then the or part is TR. So we have here she got good grades. So that is 4 symbols to sentence form. So that is our first activity for practice exercise. Let's proceed with the next exercise. Okay, so we have here the following propositions in symbol form. Your role is you are going to name the following propositions based on the main connective that is used. Okay, so I'll give you 1 minute to analyze the following and then recitation time. So just match column A to column B.
Lihat ko na lang ba yung next lesson tayo ina? Kasi naman kayo sa fine. So, is it okay? Yung groupings, i-ano ko na lang sa next. I-ano ko na lang sa next na lesson. I-join ko na lang po sa may group table. So, bali na ito, plans is either tomorrow po kung meron ko tayong fine or anytime.
Okay, let's proceed.
Next week. Yung last lesson na lang.
Okay, what is our answer for number 1? Okay, anyone who wants to volunteer to answer number 1? Yes, Ms. Sandy.
Sir, implication.
Okay, very good. Number 1 is implication. Tama. How about number 2? So the main operation used in number 1 is we have here the symbol, one-sided arrow. Pag yan ang symbol, ang tawag natin sa connective or propositional implication. How about number 2? Anyone? Number 2. How about the others? Yes, Ms. Dilinan?
Conjunction, sir.
So, number 2 is conjunction. Very good. So, we have here the main connective use is conjunction. Okay, so, we have here the first conjunct, which is a biconditional, and the second conjunct is a another conjunction. So, number 2 is a conjunction. How about number 3?
Negation sum, sir.
Okay, so number 3 is negation. Very good. So we have here, we have negated the, yung tawag dito, disjunction. So we have the negation. So number 4, yes, Miss Erin.
Sir, by conditional.
Okay, so number 4 is a by conditional. And then lastly, number 5 is obviously it is a sino gustong sumagot sa number 5? Ano yung data 2 man? Ang sagot natin sa number 5, Mr. Kenneth. Kenneth, anong sagot natin sa number 5? Mr. Kenneth. Yes, Miss Julinan, anong sagot natin?
Sir, disjunction.
It is a disjunction. That is how I'm going to name the following propositions if you can find, if you're going to find here 2 or more than connectives that is being used. Just look for the main connective that is being used. So, it's very important na alam nyo kung ano yung main connective sa isang proposition. Kasi next meeting or tomorrow, our next class will be tomorrow from 8:30 or from 8:15 ba yun? Or 8:10 to 10, we're going to determine the truth value of a certain compound proposition. Kasi pag simple proposition, it is easy to determine the truth value, if it's false or true. How about kung we have here a compound proposition? So paano natin malalaman yung truth value? Is it false or is it true? And it's also very important na, as I repeat, na alam niyo yung main connective na ginagamit. Okay, so for number 1, ano yung main connective natin? We have here the implication. For number 2, that is a conjunction. We have here. In number 3, that is negation. In number 4, that is a biconditional. And then the last one is a disjunction. So for tomorrow, we're going to discuss how to determine the truth value. And we're going to create truth tables for a certain proposition or compound proposition. Okay. So, do you have any questions or clarifications before we are going to end?
None, sir.
So, for online class, I'll be giving the activity tomorrow. If we'll be done with truth values or truth tables. So, I hope na mag-attend lahat yung nag-attend ngayon bukas by 8:30 bukas, Tuesday. Okay, so if you don't have any question, thank you so much for your participation and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Bye.
sir. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.